we're Jersey. We've got the attitude. We've got the boss. We've got John Bon Jovi. We've got we ooze with talent.
Yeah.
We ooze with diversity. Got the biggest.
All the guys you just named are white, but that's fine.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy may not be as famous as his predecessor, Chris Christie, but he's also not as infamous. He doesn't have a single scandal with a gate at the end of it, and he's managed to mostly fly under the radar, not unlike a New Jersey drone, which we will get into. But probably the main reason that Governor Murphy has a lower profile is that unlike pretty much every other American governor, he doesn't seem interested in running for president. What a freak. Here's what I do know about Governor Murphy. He worked at Goldman Sachs for 23 years, which means he is very rich. Tight. He was the ambassador to Germany for 4 years, which means he's always on time. Guten Tag. And he is a Democratic governor who Donald Trump seems to like, which means I don't know what that means. I wanted to find out, so I sat down with the governor to talk about his state's shift to the right, his fight against congestion pricing, and something a little less controversial, immigration.
Hurry right away, no delay, stop the day. Make your daddy glad to have had such a lad.
You are our third governor on the show. How does that feel?
Top 3, bronze medal. I'm cool.
Are you top 3?
I'm cool.
Okay.
I'm on the medal stand.
I also want to congratulate you for defeating the aliens that had taken over New Jersey.
Tonight, an aerial mystery that's been described as unnerving is growing. The FBI now investigating multiple reports of unidentified drones flying over New Jersey, some as large as a small car.
So are there aliens or are there not aliens?
As of this sitting, there are no aliens. There was no there, believe it or not, based on everything we know.
You had an investigation, right?
Yeah, we did as good a job as we could.
Governor,
the feds have all the equipment.
You're telling me these aren't aliens. Let's take a look.
Yeah,
those aren't aliens.
Yeah, I am telling you that, yes. Those are drones. Those could be some other unmanned flying object. It could be a plane.
Don't you dare tell me these are cinematographers trying to get aerial footage of Hoboken. That's not what's happening.
Even my wife and I taking the dogs out at night, we're looking up to the heavens at one point, but no, there's no there.
Let's take a look at one of the comments here. Okay, it's not about the drones, it's about the orbs. Why can't folks follow this? Great video. The drones are monitoring the orbs. So just so our listeners know, you've addressed the drones, but you've been silent on the orbs.
Yeah, I haven't said much on orbs. Let me make a serious point.
Sure.
The U.S. as a drone matter, this exposed, in my humble opinion, a big weakness for our national security.
What did it show? In all seriousness, what does this show?
This was the classic one of this way from the highest levels of government. No one really could explain what was happening. We ultimately got the equipment that confirmed that there was no there, but we're exposed. This was a 9/11, if you will, without the tragedy of loss of extraordinary lives, including in New Jersey. We are exposed. I hope that this administration, every administration that follows, does the work they need to do to button up our national defenses as it relates to drones.
Usually on this show and some of my work, I like to zoom out. We talk about the big picture. But with you, Governor, I'd like to zoom in.
Okay.
On a particular issue.
I feel like you're my dentist.
I promise you there are no root canals, but this one will hurt, Governor.
Okay.
I want you on camera to admit that you were wrong about congestion pricing.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. I love you, by the way, but I'm not going to do that. And it isn't just congestion pricing as a general matter. It's this particular deal that they've tried to jam down our throats. That's the issue. We've got the strongest environmental record of any administration anywhere in the country over the past 7.5 years. I'm incredibly proud of that. We want to reduce pollution. We want to fight back against climate change, but we can't take a deal that's jammed down the throat of our commuters the way this one has been.
But it's one of the most popular government policies in recent history. It is objectively
Not in New Jersey. Not in New Jersey. People are paying a big premium to get into New York. And again, I'm willing to cut a deal. I have been since moment one. We've been willing to cut a deal, sit at the table. But the New York side, the MTA in particular in this case, we have a good relationship with the governor. outstanding relationship with the mayor, but the MTA is the issue here.
Okay, we're having a healthy little debate here, folks.
We are.
Audience, we're having a healthy debate. This is a very tri-state argument. I know everybody around the world listens to this podcast, so let me just break down what
They're not
me
talking
and the
about
government-
this in Beijing, is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Just want to make sure I get
Okay,
that.
so we have people who listen in the UK, all around the world. Let me explain what's happening here between me and the governor. Okay, so for people who aren't from the tri-state area, this is what congestion pricing is. I'm just going to break this down. So they have the Wikipedia. New York City started the first congestion pricing program in the country. It's $9 to drive below 60th in Manhattan. It is expected to raise $500 million per year for public transit upgrades. You tried to block it in court. You lost. Then on Donald Trump,
we're still in court.
you're still fighting.
We're still in court.
You're grappling.
Yes.
Then on Donald Trump's inauguration day, you sent him a letter, old school, asking for Uncle Donnie's help to crush this thing. Then the Trump White House ordered the termination of congestion pricing with this insane tweet.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that.
This is at
Yeah.
White House. Congestion pricing is dead, all caps.
Yeah.
Manhattan and all of New York is saved. Long live the king. And this came from our king at the White House.
Yes. That's not from me, by the way.
Now, how excited and validated did you feel when you saw that tweet?
Listen, I'll put the tweet aside for a moment. The Trump team got there in a different lane than the one we got there. I'll tell you what our legal suit is.
Yeah.
It's a very simple one, and it started with the Biden administration. And I'm upset with them, I have to say, about this. There's a process you go through at the federal government. It's called an environmental impact statement. Usually takes a couple of years to consider all facets of something like this on the environment, not just in Manhattan, but in North Jersey and other environs. They did not do that. They did not do that for whatever reason. We have sued to get them to do that, and we have said we will live with the result of that decision.
So wait, Governor, just so I'm following your logic here. You're saying that government, which is usually so bureaucratic and so archaic and so analog, they somehow moved too fast on this issue.
They did not do the proper environmental work,
Okay,
particularly as it relates to the impact.
But Governor, I'm not also following the environmental argument. If this is about Mother Earth, you're telling me more cars
No.
on the road is better for Mother Earth?
No, I'll tell you what this is. This displaces the pollution from Manhattan to northern Jersey, particularly around the George Washington Bridge.
Okay.
As you described the plan accurately,
Yes.
The George Washington Bridge is not part of the plan. So you've got a lot of vehicles that otherwise would have been not maybe thrilled with the regular Port Authority tolls, but they have gotten used to it, being displaced to go across the George Washington Bridge. A lot more pollution up north in Jersey. So what do we ask for, putting aside our suit, in terms of what we think a fair deal would be? A modest premium that our commuters would have to pay, not a crazy amount, but we're willing to pay something. And secondly, give us some of the proceeds back in New Jersey so we can mitigate the pollution that was displaced from Manhattan to Jersey. That's our simple ask. Don't be so hard on our commuters. We're willing to do something.
Okay. So
give us some money back.
You will pay something.
We would be willing to, but the other
It's got to be
side-
lower than $9.
Yeah, the other side has not been willing to engage.
Okay.
And by the way, they haven't, because they themselves will say this is first about their financial challenge and secondly about the environmental challenge. This is the MTA trying to find a way to fill up a big fiscal hole. They will admit that. That's the first paragraph of the original proposal.
Totally.
So with all due respect, okay, we've got a challenge like that. Every big transit system in America has that challenge. Give us a little bit of that money to help us on our side. Be more modest in your ask of our commuters, and there's probably a deal there.
But why are you so anti-toll here? Isn't Jersey just an entire toll? The whole state is a toll. I pay a lot of tolls when I go to Jersey.
We need you back, by the way.
We can. Hey, this whole discussion is going to be the long pitch to try to get me back.
That's it. Yeah.
And by the way, is this stubbornness also a Jersey thing?
I think it's a fairness thing.
Okay, I got you.
Stubbornness is cool. I mean, we've got backbones, we've got attitude. We're from Jersey, baby. I get that.
But
this is about fairness.
Governor, do you remember, and I'm saying this as a comedian, remember back in the day they had the anti-smoking stuff. They're like, no more smoking in bars.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, this is anti-freedom.
Yep.
This is horrible. This is that we are descending into fascism. And then it came into play.
You bet.
And people were like,
Hey, wait a minute.
hey,
Yeah, I smell good again.
I can come home at night and I smell decent.
One of my predecessors in New Jersey said that everyone would leave bars in Manhattan and go to Hudson County in New Jersey. That didn't happen, to their credit.
But isn't this just the new smoking gun?
Conceptually, I'm not opposed to it. I will tell you, however,
Yeah.
one quick point here, because
Sure.
you've got listeners in London.
Yes.
London's the first big city in the world to have done this. My wife and I have been in London on 2 separate occasions. She won, and then together. London has got congestion up to its eyeballs. The data will show you the first few years people change their habit, and then they slip right back into their old habit. They get used to the toll. They get used to the premium. So while there are fewer cars going through the tunnels today, I just saw that with my own eyes coming over here to see.
Yeah, you were here early.
I was here early, man.
Sitting in a black SUV,
I used to-
waiting to
I
come
walked
up.
here.
You did?
Several blocks, not from Jersey.
Okay, got it.
Sadly, the patterns will change, and I hope that doesn't happen because, again, conceptually, it's a good idea, but let's get a fair deal for Jersey.
Look, I love public transit. And let's look at what the money is doing for, I think, constituents that live in Jersey, that work in Manhattan, that are part of the tri-state area. Okay, did you see the New York Times video on this? This is a crazy video. It was embedded in an article. Okay, so play this. This is what the current signaling system looks like for the MTA.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not in like
Yeah.
a children's history museum.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
this
looks
is
Is that Willy Wonka with the blue glove?
yeah, this is not some dude in Brooklyn operating
Yeah.
the keg taps at a steampunk bar in Williamsburg. This is a poor woman with latex gloves, like she's in a chemistry class,
Yeah.
operating
Yeah, I know.
the signals for the current
Yeah.
train.
But I would just say that's not acceptable.
This is
but
the
it's also
butter
not my
churning.
fault.
This is the butter churning of public transit.
But this is not my fault. I want a fair deal. We have challenges in our NJ Transit had a big fiscal hole. We solved that within the 4 walls of New Jersey by putting in a corporate transit fee, which corporations were not happy about. But we took that pain. I want a fair deal, including some bucks back to the Jersey side and making it easier for our commuters.
I hear you, Governor. And so just so people are aware, if you see what's happening right now, you have respectful debate. This is very rare in this country.
That's true, actually.
People having 2 different opinions. Hey, we're still respectful, but let's take a look at the scoreboard, okay? Let me just take a look, okay? Ridership
There are
on
no,
public
no tomatoes here.
There's
I
no
can-
tomatoes here.
Oh, God.
Okay, but for real, ridership on public transit is up. I think that's awesome.
Yep.
Traffic is down. That's great. You got here early. Delays through tunnels between New Jersey and New York have plummeted. Some of our staff, they live in Jersey.
Yep.
Less honking, less air pollution, fewer traffic-related injuries. You notice we're having this conversation in Manhattan. We haven't had to stop down for noise. That
That's
happens
true.
all the time. We have less, hey, fuck yous per capita.
More than Jersey?
I mean,
Like, come on,
yeah,
man.
it's plummeting.
That can't be true.
It's fallen. It's like the S&P 500 right now. It's dipping in unprecedented fashion. But you know what? Let's stop talking esoterically. Let's do a human interest story about your constituents,
Okay.
my dear governor.
Okay, you're teeing somebody up here.
Let's talk about Leslie Silva and her breakfast sandwiches, shall we? This is most recently in the New York Times. Let's take a look.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Leslie Silva, a hospital technician from New Jersey. She probably voted for you, Governor. Said that she didn't like the idea of drivers having to pay New York City's new congestion pricing toll. But on a recent morning, she saved enough time on her own commute by bus into Midtown Manhattan that she stopped for a bacon, egg, and cheese.
Bless her heart, man.
I don't even eat swine. And I am so happy.
I am happy for
Leslie.
Leslie. I
Who
hope
are you-
it continues, by the way. The data would suggest in London that it won't. I hope that the data is wrong for New York. I want a fair deal. That's all I want is a fair deal.
Okay. Let's talk about something a little bit less controversial.
Okay.
Immigration. Okay. I don't know if you saw this, but U.S. Attorney Alina Haba was going off on you on Hannity. Let's take a look.
And I am unfortunately going to announce on your show tonight, Sean, and I want it to be a warning for everybody, that I have instructed my office today to open an investigation into Governor Murphy. Pam Bondi has made it clear, and so has our president, that we are to take all violent criminals and criminals out of this country and to completely enforce federal law. And anybody who does get in that way, in the way of what we are doing, which is not political, it is simply against crime, will be charged in the state of New Jersey for obstruction, for concealment, and I will come after them hard.
Holy shit.
I had missed my Hannity that night, so I did not see that live.
But this,
I only saw the
if you
tape
didn't
of it.
see this, well, I saw it for you and we recorded it.
Yep.
And I just want to let you know this is a warning for everybody. Me, you, Burger King employees, Reese Witherspoon. If you are harboring illegal immigrants, they will come after you hard.
Yep.
And you are going to
Yep.
jail. How seriously are you taking that warning?
You take everything seriously. I've not had any engagement, and this is something you won't be surprised that we wouldn't comment on either way. The U.S. Attorney's a Jersey gal, so and she's got a very good life story. I've heard nothing since then. I would just say that we cooperate with the feds on immigration matters all the time, literally all the time. We have something in place since 2018 called the Immigrant Trust Directive.
Right.
And what it does is it untangles the wire between immigration matters and criminal matters. New Jersey is the safest state in America, based on a whole bunch of metrics.
In that Immigrant Trust Directive, just for people to be specific, it specifically bars local cops from basically harassing the Latino community, correct? But it still allows the police to work with ICE.
Yeah,
to
yes, on the latter, I'd say the former a little bit differently.
Okay.
If you've committed a crime, we're coming at you, and we don't care about your immigrant status. Period. If you haven't committed a crime, that's not our job. There are folks who do that for a living. We don't stand in their way, but that's not our job. The magic of this, and by the way, this has been upheld in court over the years, including by at least one Trump-appointed judge. Here's the magic. Let's say I'm a criminal. Let's say your status is unclear in terms of immigration. You are not held responsible if you approach a member of law enforcement and say, hey, I know Murphy robbed a bank. In other words, you don't worry about your immigration status when you walk up to that member of law enforcement.
Got it.
It's one of the big elements of why we are the safest state in America.
Yeah.
Because you feel completely unencumbered to walk up to that police officer and say, Murphy's your guy. That's a huge element in why we're as safe as we are.
On some level, do you see the Alina Haba thing, and break this down for me, as kind of a dog whistle, a little bit of, it paints every immigrant in that way of like, hey, this person that you see with some shade of melanin that you may not recognize or be comfortable with is a criminal in some way. That's the signal I'm getting from that clip we just played.
I mean, I certainly hope that's not true. I mean, I hope this is about criminals. Who's going to stand in the way of somebody who's committed a serious crime and they're being asked to leave the country? Or maybe someone whose asylum case has been adjudicated negatively and they're still here. There's not going to be a lot of support to, hey, no, we want to keep that person here. I would hope that this is directed at folks who should not be here, as opposed to the broad swath of our communities. I would also hope it's nonpartisan, as the U.S. Attorney's Office has historically been. We are a nation of immigrants, and there's no state in America that speaks to that more loudly than New Jersey. We wear that as a badge of honor. We are literally, I think, the most diverse state in America. So we care about that a lot.
You have been, surprisingly, in comparison to other Democratic members of the party, you've been surprisingly been able to pull off a career where you have not been particularly combative with President Donald Trump.
Yes and no.
What has been your secret to the art of the deal?
You have to pick your lanes. There's going to be some stuff where we can find common ground. Recently, we've had a lot of problems at Newark Airport. The FAA is understaffed and underinvested. We've found common ground with the Trump team to try to force a better future of the FAA, more bodies, better technology. Over here, we're going to fight like hell. If innocent individuals or communities are attacked, if our basic rights and freedoms are attacked, we're going to respond, and we'll respond aggressively. We did that in the first Trump administration. We're doing so now. Typically, that's a little bit of bully pulpit. It's a lot of legal action via our attorney general. Birthright citizenship, as an example, is a collection of states, as many of these suits are. We're leading that. We feel passionately that that's part of who we are as a nation.
Got it. And even if the administration feels differently about it, you're like, I'm willing to disagree with you.
You have to. You have to stick to your core principles, stick to the backs and having the backs of the innocent who are being attacked needlessly. stick to the Constitution.
Has that always been your political strategy, or even the strategy that you've had in your career, even pre-politics?
Yeah, I think it has been. You got to find common ground over here, and don't turn your back.
You pulled an opposite of Chris Christie. You're the
I'm not sure about
the
that.
antithesis.
Yeah.
No, but because Chris Christie is very
Yeah,
Monday Night Football, the two helmets colliding
Yep.
when it comes to the Trump.
I guess that's right.
Yeah.
We're that, by the way, as well, if we need to be. But we're trying to get that balanced, and it's hard these days. These are I would be lying to you if I didn't say these are hard times.
These are
It's
trying
getting that balance
Yep.
right.
So let's talk about tariffs.
Okay.
Right. That's an example of a policy issue that everybody has an opinion on. How are the tariffs hitting New Jersey?
They're hitting no state positively. They're probably hitting New Jersey less severely than they would, say, a Michigan. We used to make cars, trucks, chemicals in New Jersey. We don't any longer. I wish we did. We've got a booming innovation economy. That's where we make our meal. But they'll hit every state. It's important, I think, for folks to realize that on this one, and there are a couple of examples of this with President Trump, his principle or his objective is not, in my opinion, the issue. It's the execution toward that objective. I'll give you an example of what we're doing in New Jersey. We're trying to shepherd a $500 million incentive through our legislature. I give them a lot of credit for being great partners to incent multinationals to make stuff in New Jersey. That to me is not to pat myself on the back, but that's smart. It's strategic. It's giving them a carrot to come in to make stuff and create jobs in New Jersey. I love that, as opposed to punitive and inflationary steps, which I believe is the wrong way to approach the same objective.
So in 2024, New Jersey had a red shift, right?
Yep.
In 2020, Biden carried New Jersey by about 16 points. This time, Kamala won by less than 6. A lot of that happened in largely Latino areas. What do you think was at the root of this? And do you think anything has changed since the election?
Yeah, so I do. The answer on that last one is very much so. But so New Jersey, New York, Illinois, Maryland, California, I believe each had a plus or minus a 10-point shift, similar to the one we had. So it was a big blue state reality. I think it was Donald Trump. I think it was the moment in time, as opposed to, is this a big red shift? I say that, among other things, he won one of our counties up north, Passaic County. But there were 4 candidates on the county level, Democrats, all of won handily. So I don't think it's a broad-based swing. Having said that, there's a governor's race in New Jersey this year. We're taking this deadly seriously. The Republicans have been out-registering the Democrats now for many, many months, which is concerning. I do think, to your last question, have the events of the past 120-odd days impacted this? I think the answer is yes. When I ran for the first time in 2017, Donald Trump was president. In many respects, we ran against what we thought at that time were policies inconsistent with who we are as a country, and we won handily. I think you're going to see some version of that. I do think it'll be closer. The Republicans, I think, will nominate somebody who's got good name recognition, and they have run before, and they're somewhat of a known commodity. The Democrats have a very spirited primary. Unclear as we sit here who's going to win that.
Yeah.
But I think we'll have a really good candidate. It'll be a very good election, but I think on the margin, the Democrat's going to be favored.
And it sounds like you're looking ahead. And what's interesting is, you know Donald Trump. Donald Trump has called you a, quote, terrific guy.
Yep.
You visited him at one of his residences in New Jersey. What would you advise your Democratic colleagues on how they should engage with somebody that you have met with and clearly had some common ground with?
I'd do a version of what we're trying to do in government, which is acknowledge common ground and then be very clear about where there are differences, particularly as it relates to the economy and values. And I think there are some big differences on those two fronts. But also don't be so piggish to ignore opportunities to get to work together. And I think that's a good government strategy, and I think it's a good political strategy.
So these are the big legislative wins that you've had. Let's talk about sort of strategy and how constituents receive it. These are some Jersey wins that happened because of you. I think your staff's going to love this. This is a shout out to you and the whole team.
They're all standing off camera here right now.
Okay. Even though your state has shifted to the right, you've passed these very progressive pieces of legislation. Automatic voter registration.
Yep.
Awesome. Expanded paid family leave. Incredible. You legalized recreational marijuana. Dope. Who's not 420 friendly? You raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I mean, this is something I've been talking about for a very long time. I was shocked that minimum wage is not at 15. At 20 is the new 10, by the way, now.
Yeah. And by the way, the federal rate is still 7 something, which is deplorable.
You've raised taxes on millionaires, you've expanded access to abortion, and you've strengthened gun control laws. Do you think any of that translated into votes, or has politics just basically become gas prices and vibes?
That's a good question. We don't govern by polling and we don't govern by politics. I could say that definitively.
What do you mean by that?
If we think a certain step we're going to take is the right step, we're going to take it regardless of what the political implications are. It so happens that the stuff you just read out, at least in New Jersey, are overwhelmingly well received and supported. But that's not necessarily why we do them. And again, we've done some things, including finding alignment with President Trump, that have been very unpopular. But the fact of the matter is, my first responsibility is for the 9.5 million New Jerseyans who live there. But have they had a positive political impact? I'm sure. Not why we did them. We did them because all those steps were the right things to do for a whole variety of reasons. And I'm proud that we did them.
So, Governor, you have this position in leadership, and specifically being the governor of New Jersey. You have to communicate to your constituents and people and family members. People are very concerned about the current state of the world. I get this when I'm walking around the streets of Manhattan. People, things are so crazy right now. They couldn't be. What do you tell people? What frame of mind do you give them when they feel this existential dread and concern about the current moment and the future?
Yeah. We have it around the kitchen table. We've got 4 kids in their 20s.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an opinion. My wife is a outstanding first lady and public servant.
Sure.
We have this at home. We have it on the streets, as you say, walking around, you feel it.
Totally.
There's a level of discomfort.
You talk to anybody on the street, everything's going to shit.gov.
Yep.
That's kind of the MO.
Yep. I think number one is, as governor, you've got to have I feel your pain. You've got to have empathy and sympathy with folks, because I've got myself. This is not unique to a certain band of people or a certain community. It's across the board. So feeling their pain. Secondly, do something. One of the things that really concerned me, between Election Day and about March, there wasn't much. This was like deer in the headlight time. I don't know if you felt that way. You had both the anxiety that you're referring to, but also sort of people freezing up. And that was an awful combination. That has, probably for all the wrong reasons, begun to change meaningfully. People are mad as hell. Remember the movie Network?
Sure.
Mad as hell, we're not going to take it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
And you're seeing it not just in America, you're seeing it in other places. Canada, Australia, even Germany to some extent, where I served as our ambassador. You're seeing elections that say, wait a minute, this is not where we think the West should be going. This is not consistent with our values. You're beginning to see it domestically. A state Senate seat in Pennsylvania a month and a half ago in a big Trump district went the other way. I'm starting to get that vibe of 2018. You'll remember the midterms when President Trump was in his first term, went big for Democrats. But do something. Don't sit on your hands. And believe. You got to believe that the Constitution holds. Right now, we've got to believe that our judiciary holds. I was hoping with the nominations for cabinet and other steps that the U.S. Senate, where the Republicans have an advantage, I was hoping you'd see some profiles and courage on some of those votes.
Yeah.
We didn't see enough of that. I'm now hoping, and so far, knock on wood somewhere, so far so good.
Yeah.
But the story is yet to be completely told that the judiciary will hold and that the Trump administration will respect the judiciary. Those are both open questions right now. We have to do everything we can.
And if those
to
things
push
don't
that
hold,
way.
we descend into nihilism and chaos.
Yeah. That's the bad end.
How would you feel if you found out that you've been having the fake version of something your entire life? Outraged? Angry? Well, get ready to get mad, because every cup of chai that you've bought at some chain coffee shop here in America is fake. It's packed with tons of sugar and artificial flavors that are horrible for your health. And for some reason, they keep spelling my name wrong. But it doesn't have to be that way. Kolkata chai is changing all of that. Zero sugar and natural ingredients that you can actually pronounce. Organic black tea, cardamom, black pepper, fresh cinnamon. It's the boldest cup of chai you can find with their unique range of chai blends and concentrates. And you don't have to stand in line for it for hours. You can make it at home in minutes. It's the only chai that's allowed in the Minhaj household. All other chais are forbidden. Head to kolkatachai.co/Hasan to grab your first cup and 2 free gifts on me.
I'm going to finish with 2 very interesting details about you.
Okay.
You've mentioned this several times in the conversation, where you said you were an ambassador for Germany for many years. An ambassador to
Germany, yep.
To Germany for many years. So I've had this question that I've thought about historically, which is, look, if any of you are a dad, become a dad, or have a dad, you know that dads love World War I and World War II. And as a dad, I have 2 children. That itch has also been fascinating me. I've been going back to history and been thinking to myself, how the hell did Germany turn its entire reputation around? And is there something to learn there? Because the United States' reputation around the world is kind of, not so great.
Yeah.
The more I travel, I find out people are kind of laughing at us.
Yeah.
What did Germany do, in your eyes, to make people, I mean, I literally see people on the street wearing a Germany
You bet.
soccer kit.
Let me go way back and
Sure.
start with the glass half empty part of the story. How did they go from a very civilized, world-leading society into the chaos of the Third Reich and Adolf Hitler and the Holocaust and World War II?
Yeah.
That to me is a very relevant lesson that is out there right now for us. We all need to study the aftermath of World War I, the 20s and 30s, what led to the horror. My wife and I recently did the March for the Living from Auschwitz to Birkenau, and you get that in your face, what this led to. So I'll start with a glass half empty. Let's all go to school right now on how Germany unraveled. They had some, first of all, war. World War I, awful. Lessons learned out of World War I, aftermath, completely the wrong lessons. Allowed Germany to rise again and to instigate World War II. Out of World War II, thanks to statesmen, historians who understood the broad thrust of history, Konrad Adenauer in Germany, Harry Truman, George Marshall, as in the Marshall Plan, other statesmen like that, both in the Truman and Eisenhower administrations, in Germany themselves, in fairness, got themselves back, dusted themselves off, rejected the past, and said, you know what, we're in a different, we want to be part of the Western values, the Western society. You've got right now, not to end in a B flat, but you've got a very potent right-wing party in Germany right now that has just missed getting into government. And they were just called out by the German security system as an extremist
It's
party.
a far-right, what are they?
AfD.
AfD.
The Alternative for Deutschland, Alternative for Deutschland. Its name was born out of Angela Merkel, who was moving her conservative Christian Democrats toward the middle of the political spectrum, which, by the way, I personally support. But when she was asked, well, what about somebody who could come in to the right of us? And she said, there is no alternative. And it turns out there is, unfortunately. So the unraveling post-World War I through the 30s, we have to learn that lesson cold. Kudos and hats off to the great statesmen, largely men, some women, mostly statesmen, in Germany first and foremost, but among the Allies, especially the United States, who got Germany to where they are today, and a blinking yellow caution light that extremism that we saw in the 20s is unfortunately rearing its head again.
Okay. That was a great, almost like a historical Wikipedia perspective.
Sorry to go on too.
No. Thank you for the PDF. Here's another fun fact about you, Governor. And I would love your analysis on this. So you worked at Goldman Sachs for
did.
23 years.
Yes.
Why do so many Goldman people end up in government?
That's crazy, right?
Several alumni, Goldman alumni.
Yes.
They called it, the nickname now is
Government Sachs.
They call it Government Sachs. Several alumni in the Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Trump administrations end up
Yeah.
coming from Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
You guys are everywhere. And I do mean just guys. It's mainly just guys. The current Prime Minister of Canada,
Yep.
central bank heads. What is it about Goldman that makes people want to get into government?
It's crazy, right? Something of the water, perhaps? No, I think it goes back many decades where you had leaders at Goldman Sachs who were also statesmen in their own right, whether literally or figuratively. Gus Levy is a giant in the history of Goldman. He's the chairman of the Port Authority. He didn't become a governor or a prime minister, but there was an ethos of public service. John Whitehead, who was Ronald Reagan's deputy secretary of state and one of my mentors. Secretary Fowler, former Treasury Secretary, was a partner of Goldman in the 60s. Bob Rubin, one of my mentors, was President Clinton's Treasury Secretary. You can go through John Corzine, one of my predecessors, as governor. I think it sort of started way back when, and it's an unspoken. It's not written anywhere, but it's in the air. You got to do your part for society.
Do they hand you the Goldman book and they go, once you get all the money, you need the cold, hard, raw power?
No, I've never seen that, I'm more of a glass half full of.
Because you guys got it all at that point. I mean, I got cousins that work in banking. I mean, the Christmas bonuses. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And that hit for you 23 times.
Yeah.
So at that point, were you just like, it's got to be more? Because you got the West Hampton house.
Yeah.
You got the Tribeca Law.
Yeah.
All the kids are in private school.
Yeah.
The college is paid for.
Yeah.
Are you just like, man, I need to
For me, it predates. I mean, Bob Rubin was incredibly important as a mentor to me, without question.
Okay.
But it predates Goldman in my case. I grew up in a family, middle class on a good day is the way I put it.
Yeah.
My dad never graduated from high school. My mom did get a high school degree. She made sure the four of us got educated. He made sure we cared about politics and public service.
Okay.
So I give him a lot of the credit early on, at the kitchen table arguing about George Meany, the head of the United Auto Workers, or Gene McCarthy, my older sister and my dad going back and forth. Bobby Kennedy, Gene McCarthy, Lyndon Johnson.
So you were always interested in politics.
Yes.
And political discourse was something that was happening at the kitchen table, but were you guys having these debates on the trading floor? Like, was this a Goldman thing?
Yeah, more of a night job thing. So I'll tell you the way I think Rubin, to his credit, really honed this. We all had big, important day jobs where you're focused laser-like and you're not either terribly partisan or partisan at all. You're there, it's a for-profit operation. But it was the night job, if you will, the hobby, the hosting a dinner for X candidate or Y senator or governor. That was sort of the MO. That was certainly the MO that I pursued. And I'm happy I did. It gave great satisfaction. I loved the day job, but I also felt like there was an opportunity to give into the public service sort of lane, if you will, and I'm happy I did that.
So here's where you and I are a little bit different. So
Okay.
people see me as a B- C+ level celebrity. Not to brag, but I am in the thousands in my IMDb star rating.
I give you a much higher grade. I just want to get that off my chest.
Well, IMDb has rated me as such, and the people have spoken.
Fake news. You're
But-
better than that.
But what celebrities have is just the power of comp tickets. I can get us comp tickets to go see Hamilton, not the main cast, but the touring cast. But what you have, Governor, is the power of coercion. And I think that's what the banking class wants. You want to get in there and fucking change zoning laws.
Yeah.
That's really where
I don't see it quite that way.
Really?
Yeah. I love
Because people say,
took-
why don't the celebrities do? We can't do anything. We can't sign treaties. We can't pass legislation.
I want to make sure everyone gets the touring cast caveat to your tickets. I just thought that was a moment of brilliance.
Sure. Yeah. I tried to get main cast. They're like, you're not going to get tickets for Lynn.
Listen, I want to make New Jersey as good as it can be. And that's the whole reason I'm in this thing. It's 9.5 million of us. Let's be as good as we can
Well,
be.
it's going to be a whole lot more. You know, you have the World Cup coming next summer.
Yeah.
So are
and
you
the Club World Cup this summer.
Yeah, and are you prepared for all those drunk Europeans to enter your state?
We are prepared, although we still have a lot of work to do. It's going to be, we think, 1 million to 2 million people will visit the region.
Yeah.
New York City's our co-host.
Yeah.
People say, why New York City? I say, well, we've got the stadium and they're New York City. It's a great combination. Eric Adams has been a great partner. It's going to be incredible. 8 matches, including the World Cup final. And the Club World Cup this summer, 9 matches, including both semis and the final. All of the above at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
Of course.
We're ready. I mean, by the way, the fact we've got the Club Cup this summer gives us a chance to take it around the track, if you will, on security, transportation, fan experience, etc. Very, very excited.
Okay. So to end us out here, I am a 39-year-old father of 2. I am what the kids call washed. I would argue I'm clean, not washed. But when you hit a certain age, you have to move to the burbs. You get 3 choices.
Yeah.
You either move to Jersey, you move to Connecticut, or you move to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Governor, convince me to move to New Jersey.
How old are your kids?
My kids are 7 and 5.
Okay. So number 1, without question, literally this week, just ranked the #1 public education system in America. Number 1, Jersey. That's the most important reason, I think. Top 5 healthcare state, top handful of quality of life, great values, great convenience in terms of where we're located, second to none on all of that. Plus, we're Jersey. We've got the attitude. We've got the boss. We've got John Bon Jovi. We've got we ooze with talent.
Yeah.
We ooze with diversity. Got the biggest,
All the guys you just named are white, but that's fine.
the biggest South Asian community outside of California.
That is true. There you go.
In the country.
Yeah.
And growing.
Yeah.
I just got back from an economic mission to the Gulf, shockingly, in the United Arab Emirates. 12 million people in total, 4.3 million Indian. We did a big Indian Business Council meeting. Jersey sells connects around the globe. We're second to none on all of the above. And I mentioned values in passing. If you care about LGBTQ, voting rights, gun safety, the environment, I could go on. We're ahead of the class on all of that. Great place to raise a family. In fact, every state's got a bumper sticker. Ours is America's #1 state to raise a family. That's Jersey.
That's literally on the bumper sticker?
No, but that's I view that. I
You
view
want
that
to do
as
bumper sticker? Okay,
as,
gotcha. Because it's a little too long for the bumper sticker.
I'm a Democrat, by the way, which is why it goes around the truck a little bit.
I got you.
But that's who we are. That's literally who we are.
Okay.
By the way, Connecticut's a great state.
Yeah.
Brooklyn is a great place. I think Connecticut and Jersey have more alike, including front yard, backyard, than Brooklyn does.
Sure.
Love Brooklyn, but I think it's a different wrinkle, if you will. And we've had the second largest over the past 5 years state-to-state migration in America. Number 1 has been New York to Florida. Number 2 is New York to Jersey. Some of it COVID, a lot of it due to the magnets that we have in place, none more important than education.
I think the New York to Jersey one's going to stick. The New York to Florida, I'm like, you're not serious about that.
No, I think that's going to dry up. I really believe
Sure.
that. People go there. I mean, I understand they go in part if you're a senior because you're not going to have to deal with the brutal winter that you
Yeah.
in Jersey or New York or Connecticut. I get that.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people who are not seniors, still in the
Yeah.
that are going there because there's no state income.
No. If you're in the final throes of the fourth quarter or the first or second overtime, it's time to go to Florida. But if you're in your 30s and you're either high on cocaine or trading crypto, you're not a serious person and you're moving to Florida. You're coming back.
I think you're coming. I think that's
You're
going
coming
to be a boomerang. And I hope the first group, by the way, we do a lot to keep them in Jersey, so we don't give up on that. But that is at least a more rational debate to have with somebody.
Well, Governor, thank you so much for your time. This was a lot of fun.
Can we go back to congestion pricing?
Let's do 20 more minutes on it.
Great to be
This
with
was
you.
really great. This was lovely. Thank you.
Thanks for having
I'm
me.
going to run your pitch by my wife. And thank you for welcoming our film to your lovely state.
Yeah, we love that too.
Yeah, great.
Your wife and your kids are best.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, man.
Cheers.
Hurry right away, no delay, stop